A $1.9 billion mental health package was at the heart of the government's first Wellbeing Budget. Other big-ticket items were $1 billion for Kiwi Rail, an $80 million boost for whānau ora, and more than $500,000 on welfare reforms, including indexing benefits to wage increases. But National says this is a botched budget and its focus is on anything but welfare. We've got extensive coverage of the budget tonight, and shortly we'll hear from Finance Minister Grant Robertson. But first, political reporter Yvette McCullough begins our coverage.
The government says its $1.9 billion package for mental health and addiction services is the biggest boost by any government ever. It includes a new universal frontline mental health service that's expected to help 325,000 people in 5 years' time. $40 million is going towards a suicide prevention strategy. There is also $200 million extra for new and existing mental health and addiction facilities. Finance Minister Grant Robertson says the budget is a significant step forward in embedding wellbeing into the government policy.
I want every mother, father, brother, sister or friend who has seen their nearest and dearest suffer to know that we have heard the call and we are answering it. Mental health is no longer on the periphery of our health system. It is front and centre.
Improving child wellbeing was another of the government's big priorities. Many of the initiatives, including a $320 million package to address family and sexual violence and the $1.1 billion investment to help break the cycle of children in state care, had already been revealed. But what was new was a $535 million package to implement the government's welfare reforms, including indexing main benefits to wage increases, a lift in abatement thresholds for main benefits to allow people to work more hours before their benefit reduces, and the removal of a sanction.
In 2017, the Children's Commissioner Andrew Beecroft said that the single best thing that the government could do to combat child poverty was the indexation of benefits. Today, that is exactly what we will do.
This priority also included a $745 million package to take financial pressure off parents. That includes $74 million a year for decile 1 to 7 schools to replace parental donations, plus other money to remove NCA fees and investing in learning support. Kiwi Rail also received a big boost, with $1 billion for upgrades in trains and infrastructure and to begin replacing inter-islander ferries. $300 million of this is coming from the Provincial Growth Fund. New Zealand First Leader Winston Peters addressed the opposition's criticism of this spending.
And they can laugh over there, but history will applaud this budget. And future governments, dare I say it, will seek to emulate it. It's a budget of delivery. We seek to improve the well-being of New Zealanders and to tackle cycles of poverty and deprivation. We seek to invest in the infrastructure of our country after many years of neglect and to truly boost our economy.
Green Party co-leader James Shaw heralded the budget for taking action on climate change. $95 million is being invested in science and research to tackle the issue. It also addresses the concern of farmers about not having the tools and guidance to be part of the solution.
Now, over half of the $229 million sustainable land use package will fund exactly the kind of support that farmers and councils have been asking for. It includes on-the-ground advice and tools to support farmers making the change to more environmentally sustainable and higher value production.
The budget also included more targeted spending for Māori, including an $80 million boost for whānau ora over the next 4 years and nearly $20 million in te reo initiatives. The government also announced initiatives to build a productive nation, including a $300 million fund to bridge the venture capital gap. But National leader Simon Bridges says the budget is a reflection on the government.
This is a botched budget by a bungling, incompetent government, Mr. Speaker, but it's what this budget isn't that is the real tragedy for New Zealanders, because it sure as heck isn't a wellbeing budget.
And he pointed out an irony about one of the models on the cover of the Wellbeing Budget.
She's moved to Australia because the costs of living under this government have gone up more than ever before. That tells you all you need to know about this budget. It's glossy pics, it's spin, but in terms of real well-being for New Zealanders, it just isn't there.
However, in her reply, Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern called out the opposition for their record on wellbeing.
It is just not credible to say that the opposition somehow have invested in all of their time in government when this budget has to reverse the underinvestment that we have experienced. Mr. Speaker, if they cared so much about all of those issues, then why did they not do it then?
She criticised Mr Bridges for barely mentioning mental health or child poverty in his speech.
If there is one thing I learned in opposition, sometimes it is okay to agree. Sometimes it is okay to acknowledge that there is a problem and that it's worth facing it and it's worth investing it. And I would hope that when it comes to child poverty and mental health, that might have been one area where the Leader of the Opposition might have just said, I agree.
Winston Peters says history will applaud this wellbeing budget and other governments will seek to emulate it. And while Grant Robertson says he isn't claiming perfection in his first attempt, this is the first step towards putting wellbeing at the heart of policy and measuring what makes life worthwhile. From Parliament for Checkpoint, Yvette McCullough.